Okay, so we're here in the studio. Tonight I'm going to be working on some props, and because we've got the Abimelech story coming up in a week and a half, because I decided that's when it should be shot. So tonight I am working on one of Abimelech's men's costumes, which is the bone helmet. I basically decided to approach the story like a horror story, really. And so I his men should be entirely horrifying and fear-inducing. So I found this in a bone shop in Austin about almost 2 years ago. I'm going to texture paint this tonight. What I've discovered is that when you paint bone, make sure that it's shellacked, because basically paint just soaks straight into the bone and you can't do any kind of texturing on it because it just seeps in. So I coated this entire, what I believe is a cow's pelvis with a acrylic layer, so I can get a good black paint rub off, so I can get highlights on there. So let's see how that goes. In the background is the bone mace, currently drying with acrylic layer because that was where I had my one discovery, because those bones on the top were just basically straight bone, and so the black paint seeped straight into it and I couldn't do anything with it. So I wanted the highlights to poke out as if that were they've been used so many times, so they're all darkened with either blood and guts, and the points are still ivory white. So anyway, I'll be working on that later. The background is Jephthah's daughter and Jephthah himself, and to be painted yet is what will be called the Holocaust of Jephthah's daughter. That's all there is to it right now. The rest will be completely paint, and that's a piece I'm also working on now. That is the grief of Jephthah when he meets his daughter. Okay, the initial test looks pretty good. Basically, it's watered down black acrylic paint over top, and then watered down, wiped off, added on, and splattered around. And that seems to be working. There it is before. There it is after. I'll play around with a little bit more. Obviously, I started with the back in case I screwed it up. So let's check in a... Okay, so because I think that technique started to really work and I thought it was awesome, I did it on the entire piece. I think it really works. But again, I have to think about... I'm going to black and white film, and so I probably need to emphasize the contrast just a little bit. So hopefully this next step won't screw it up, which is basically kind of dry brushing some highlights in. But this is basically a wash of acrylic black paint, wiped on, wiped off, you know, with water and dry paper towels until it kind of seeps into the cracks and the highlights come out. So we'll see this in a little bit. All right, here we are. I'm not sure if any of it's reading, but I basically dry brushed on a sort of ivory highlights, because again, it's not necessarily what it looks like to the eye, but what it's going to look like to the camera. So you got to increase the contrast. So I am actually quite proud of this. What's going to happen from here is I have to attach it to some sort of helmet that I'm going to cover in leather. I actually found an old bike helmet at the Goodwill for like $3. Cover that in leather and have bone pieces hanging off the back to balance it. But anyway, this is the beginning of the bone mace, and I think it's a great start. And I'm proud of this. I'm going to have a drink. I'm going to go to bed.